morning, and welcome to the acoustically improved Ilwan Hall. Can everyone hear and back out of the speakers? So that means if I say anything really foolish, you'll all be able to hear it very clearly. It's great. But we owe an immense thanks to Reverend Joe and his brother and Reverend Choi, who spent many hours this week installing and tuning these new speakers. So thank you to all of you. It's good to look out and see so many Dharma friends, relationships nurtured by our time spent together in this beautiful place. Let me begin by reading one of my favorite passages from the scriptures of Won Buddhism. The disciple asked, "Not only is my innate ability dull, but I have only been practicing for a short time. I don't know when I shall ever succeed. What shall I do?" Sotasan, the founding master, said, "Practice in religious orders has little to do with one's innate ability or how long one has practiced. It depends only on whether or not a person can exert himself in belief, zeal, questioning, and dedication. Anyone who has these traits can be certain of speedy success." So as you might guess, this is a practitioner with whom I can identify. Maybe some of you can as well. Many of us here are beginners to the spiritual path, or at least this particular path. And I, for one, still find many of the practices of Won Buddhism to be elusive. They seem at one moment very simple, such as when you sit, just sit. Or while meditating, if idle thoughts arise, merely return to your breathing and they will vanish on their own. Yes, that's very simple, but not so easy to do. And it's much the same with some of the doctrines, such as the law of cause and effect and letting go of attachments. I see them clearly for an instant, and then they dissolve into a cloud of mystery. And I wonder, will I ever really get this stuff? So I'm immensely grateful for Sotasan's response to the worried disciple. If you have faith in what he's saying, this can be a bedrock from which to build a practice. Success is open to anyone, no matter where and when you begin. And note that he's not patting him on the shoulder and saying, "Don't worry, everything will be okay," but rather he's saying, work really hard, practice with utmost devotion, and great things will happen, regardless of your innate capacities. Of course, it's wonderful when something comes really easily, whether on the meditation mat or in other pursuits and careers. However, a point will be reached where effort and dedication become essential to maintain progress. My youngest son attended the Culinary Institute in Hyde Park with a strong desire to become a chef. And while a student there, he confided in me that he had doubts about his creative abilities. Some of his classmates seemed to have an intense flair for dramatic presentations, and they were always winning the competitions. These were the ones with very high innate capabilities. After graduating, he went on to work at one of the famous restaurants in Manhattan and found that he had something much more important. It was a genuine passion for cooking. This was his bedrock, and it carried him through grueling 14-hour days, working on over 300 meals each evening as he achieved his goal of becoming a sous chef in 2 years. So Won Buddhism then is a spiritual teaching for every man and every woman. It's a teaching where one of the founding mottos is, Buddha Dharma is daily life, and daily life is Buddha Dharma. It never promises to be an easy path, but at its core, I find it quite forgiving and accepting. Listen to this interchange between the founding master and some followers from Pusan. They began, "We have the utmost respect for the great master's Dharma, but since we make our livelihood by fishing, we are constantly breaking the first precept, do not kill without due cause. We are ashamed and discouraged by this." Sotasan replied, "Don't worry. A person's occupation is difficult to change overnight. Even if you break one precept out of 30, but earnestly keep the other 29, you will be able to contribute immeasurable merit to society. And if you're able to observe the 29 precepts, then a way for you to observe the remaining one will naturally appear." Sotasan is willing to accept these men as they are with glaring imperfections. Remember, they failed at the very first precept, not the 18th or the 19th, which is, by the way, the much easier to observe. Do not sleep at an improper time without due cause. He demands only that they do their best. And why is this? He knows well that the pursuit of perfection by eliminating all transgressions and desires simply does not work. It leaves the student ashamed and discouraged, just as the fishermen described themselves, and likely to abandon the way altogether. He knows this so well because he himself chose a path of severe asceticism early in the journey that nearly took his life and left his health forever compromised. So his message becomes, do not eliminate, but instead elevate by continually raising your aspirations. If you persevere in this, the obstacles to practice will gradually dissolve. And when we practice here, time does seem to slow down. I can still hear Reverend Doksang Jo as he led moving meditation, and he'd be saying with great gentleness, exhale and settle down. Do this over and over. I wonder if this style of teaching would have appealed to me when I first discovered Zen long ago in college. I'm not sure if it was the times, the 60s, or the authors that I read, but great emphasis was placed on the moment of enlightenment, as if that was all that really mattered. The stories were full of drama and miracle, where a simple remark or gesture by the master carried the student into a new realm of consciousness. The koan's puzzle was instantly solved, and I really wanted some of that. And now, 40 years later, I'm left to ponder this glaring irony. There I was, a mere lad, as they say, with my whole life still ahead, and I wanted it all right now. And now here today, with so many fewer days left, I move along at a glacial pace, somehow content with the knowledge that I won't get anywhere near the end point in this lifetime. If I had practiced very slowly and steadfastly all those years, I'd probably be one of those masters in the stories. But instead, the impatience of youth led me to abandon the path, and I doubt if anything an elder could have said would have changed things. But today, with the help of the ministers here at the Won Dharma Center, I've come to appreciate the power of slowness. As Reverend Lee told us last week, the goal is to make valuable use of each of the 86,400 seconds we're given each day from the time bank. As time slows, it becomes more possible to be fully aware of each instant, allowing us to get a micro glimpse of our true nature. and if we could link those snapshots together, would see a flickering, moving image in real time. You might call this the calculus of enlightenment. You start very small and slowly build instant by instant, just as at dawn, darkness infinitesimally becomes light. And to this point, the founding master said, "A foolish person tries to attain great wisdom that transcends the ordinary and surpasses the sages as soon as he has his first hint of awakening. But this is the completely wrong idea. The water that fills the great ocean is the accumulation of small drops. The great soil of the mountains and fields is the accumulation of small dust motes. And the achievement of the great fruition of all Buddhas and sages is the accumulation of merit in the formless and invisible mind. Those who aspire to great practice and who have initiated a great enterprise must first start by accumulating merit in small matters." So, it is our good fortune to have come upon this one Buddhist teaching. Its uniqueness comes directly from being so involved in ordinary life, its dynamism from being devoid of drama, and its enlightening power from the slow and steady path. In this sense, it is both yin and yang, both soft and hard, mutually enfolded to become the complete roundness of the Ilwan Sang behind me. But you know, being here is really is beyond good fortune. I mean, how could you calculate the odds of bringing Korean Buddhism to Claverack, New York? Last week, John Grizel told me that having the Wan Center here felt like someone had just given him $1 million. And that seems like about the right odds, 1,000,000 to 1. In a sutra, Buddha also spoke about overcoming incredible odds. He called this the 3 difficulties. The first is to be born as humans. If you consider the vast number of sentient beings covering all the surfaces of the earth, Buddha said, the chance to be born as a human is the same as a blind turtle poking his head through a hole in a piece of wood floating in the middle of the ocean. The second odds-defying difficulty is to come into contact with an enlightened master's teachings. And the third difficulty is to give rise to great faith and make an effort to practice. So just by sitting here, we have all overcome the first 2 hurdles. That's the 1,000,000 to 1 odds, or probably much greater. The final difficulty, though great, has nothing to do with chance, but it's totally within our control. So let us use this precious chance that we have here well and continue to grow our faith and to make an effort to practice with zeal, perseverance, and an inquiring mind. Thanks for listening this morning, and I hope we will share this place until we get even older.